So the revelations from Prince Harry's book are out. These are the front pages the royal family are waking up to this morning. They don't make for very pleasant reading. And in the last few hours, a new clip from that ITV interview has been released.
What was different here was this level of frustration. And I talk about the red mist that I had for so many years, and I saw this red mist in him. He wanted me to hit him back, but I chose not to.
There's a fair amount of drugs, marijuana, magic mushrooms, cocaine. I mean, that's going to surprise people.
But important to acknowledge. I want reconciliation, but first there needs to be some accountability. The truth, supposedly, at the moment has been there's only one side to this story, right? But there's two sides to every story.
Well, Royal Editor Russell Myers, you have read the whole thing, haven't you?
Well, we've had a team at Mirror Towers going through it because we were able to access it through copies that went on sale in Spain.
Well, this is bizarre. Now, that's
yeah.
the most extraordinary thing, because we were sort of told that, you get it on Monday or maybe on Tuesday, and it was all sort of shrouded in secrecy, and then somebody in Spain just puts it on the shelf.
I know. It's been a bit of a mishap from the publishers, I think. A couple of leaks here and there, but we have been feasting on the details, and it is absolutely jam-packed with revelations. I mean,
it really is. It really is. Like we said, it's not supposed to be out yet. There's an awful lot of detail in there.
There is, yeah.
Maybe too much detail. A lot of detail about the relationships between him and his brother, but also between Meghan and Kate.
Yeah, well, I imagine the irony has been lost on Harry, because nobody is spared. Of course, Spare is the title of his book, and we have revelations of drug taking. We have revelations of sort of violence, allegations that his brother manhandled him. Even goes into detail about his being circumcised, his brother being circumcised.
I don't need to know that.
Frostbite on his private parts.
Don't need to know about Prince Harry's willy.
Moving on swiftly. Will's being a bit tipsy on the morning after his wedding, saying he could smell the rum on his breath as they were making their way to the wedding, and even losing his virginity aged 17 in a field. And I would just give you some of the feast we have in front of us on this. Some of the shocking quotes are from Harry in his own words, saying losing his virginity was a humiliating episode with an older woman who liked macho horses and treated me like a young stallion.
Oh, stop it.
I must carry on. I mounted her quickly. One of my many mistakes was letting it happen in a field just behind a very busy pub. No doubt somebody had seen us. I mean, you talk about the headlines that the royal family are waking up to. I mean, this is absolutely breathtaking.
My toes may never uncurl again.
They certainly won't, no.
Jeez. I'll tell you what, though, for me, the most disturbing thing about all of this was him revealing that he had killed 25 Taliban, members of the Taliban, while he was in Afghanistan. It's just not done as that. You just don't, if you're in the armed forces, you don't actually talk about things like that. You might talk about it to one another, but maybe not. But also, this is really dangerous.
It is indeed, and this is certainly something that has shocked a lot of people reading the book and finding out these details. Of course, we know he served 2 tours of Afghanistan, but that admission that he killed 25 Taliban insurgents during one of his tours, he treated them like chess pieces in a game. Now, I'd spoken to the former head of royalty protection, who's in charge at Scotland Yard, and he said, make no mistake, this represents a clear and present danger right now for the royal family, and it's certainly cavalier at best from Harry.
It just came across wrong, just completely wrong, and he always talks about, wanting to protect his family, like obviously Meghan and his children, of course he does. But by doing that, surely he's putting them in danger. It just does, especially when they live in America.
Yeah, well, I think there are several red lines that have been crossed, and that will certainly be the issues being spoken about.
You talked about red line. A red line for King Charles, was any criticism at all of Camilla. Does he talk about Camilla? Does he criticise Camilla?
Well, he does. He certainly goes into stark detail about his relationship with his father when Camilla was on the scene, talks about how he and William had begged their father not to marry Camilla. He says that he was sort of thinking that she would become his wicked stepmother. And it's language like this that certainly will not only send those shockwaves through the palace, but there will be a lot of upset, hurt, despair, I would imagine, at reading passages like this, because it's brutal in its honesty.
It's actually brutal, you're right. That's the word. Nothing from the palace yet. Do you think the tactic is going to be hunker down, don't respond, and if they are going to respond, take your time to respond?
Yes,
what do you think?
I think they've shown that already. You know, the last few weeks we've had the Netflix series, 6 hours of that. They decided not to say anything. Again, people I'd spoken to yesterday were saying it's the wearisome nature of this. It cannot be underestimated.
Weary is a good word.
And I think that what the issue that they have now is, do they now get engaged in the tit-for-tat battle? It seems a lot of time has passed even since the Netflix series. The hope is that this will blow over. There is so much detail in this book, and I think sometimes when we just heard Harry talking about one side of the story.
All we've heard is their side and his side,
and that's
mainly his side. That's all we seem to hear. But I think, I mean, if I was advising the royal family, I would just don't say anything. Just let it go.
I certainly think that will be the tact.
Just let it go. Just let it, you know. Just let it go. It's interesting, though, because he goes into an awful lot of detail about quite petty things, doesn't he? You know, that relationship with them. There's all sorts of petty stuff going on. But then he doesn't really talk about what happened, what exactly was said before the infamous dog bowl fight.
Yes.
He doesn't talk about that. He doesn't actually, you know, he doesn't go into detail about what Meghan was accused of.
Yeah, really interesting details in certain parts of the book, and then huge omissions in others.
So
one of the parts I picked out yesterday was the discussions about the bridesmaid fitting. Of course, we've been flip-flopping who made who cry. Now, one of the issues surrounding this was that apparently Meghan had said to Kate that she had baby brain, and she just had Prince Louis.
She had, yeah.
Now, it transpires that Kate was upset about that. She said to Meghan, "You don't know me well enough to be speaking about my hormones." It seems that there's very, very highly charged and emotional conversation. So there was a sort of a summit called at Kensington Palace. Harry and Meghan make their way over, and they were just in absolute awe of the splendour of how this 20-bedroom apartment had been done up. And it seems that the pettiness runs through this, that they were living in this Nottingham cottage, which was on the grounds, talking about the fact that they only had IKEA furniture. They'd had to buy their sofa from sofa.com on Meghan's credit card, and here they were, sort of. The jealousy was sort of running through them, and I think that's what a lot of people will have a real big issue with.
There's a lot of resentment there.
Very
but
much so.
You know what it's like if you're the oldest. Anyway, in any family, the oldest one usually does get the best room. I mean, I know I did.
Yeah.
When we eventually moved and had the rooms of our own, Graham got the wee tiny room and I got the big one. That's how it should be.
Well, again, it talks about, you know, Harry talks about the fact that there was an argument about that they hadn't bought William and Kate Easter presents, and then there became a bit of a row. But he goes into detail about how he was invited to Sandringham one Christmas and he'd been stuck back in the servants' quarters. I very much doubt that was the case. But Sandringham is a very grand manor house, but there's always been the fact that so many people come, they can't get everybody in, so everyone has to bunk up and get in like normal Christmases.
It's a strange one. We were talking about it yesterday, Rosie and I, and she said, you know, she feels sorry for his children because they're going to grow up and they're going to read this book, and they're going to have, you know, and when you think about it, if they don't manage to heal this, they'll have no relatives on their dad's side and very few on their mum's side. It's just...
Well, and again, reading the extracts of all the entire book, my overwhelming fear and overwhelming feeling from this was one of sadness.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
And I think that
100%.
there is no way back here for them.
You don't think so?
I can't imagine.
Will he go to the coronation?
Oh, well, he spoke about the fact that he will make his decision at some stage, but.
He'll get invited. I think Charles
he will, of course.
Obviously is going to invite
and
his son.
I still don't doubt that he still loves his father and his brother, but he's got a funny way of showing it in this book.
Absolutely. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you
Very much indeed. Do let me know what you think. And obviously, a huge part of the book focuses on, you know, we've talked about the relationship with his dad, but a lot of it focuses on, you know, Harry and losing his mother. And we're going to have more reaction from Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell.